Hello, Mr. Bullock's class, and we're going to be talking about chi-squared goodness of fit test.
What is the chi-squared goodness of fit test?
It is an inference test used to compare multiple population proportions. It determines whether a population has a certain hypothesized distribution or not.
What is its purpose?
To compare the observed proportions of a population versus the expected proportions. This is demonstrated through chi-squared summation observed frequencies minus expected frequencies squared divided by the expected frequencies.
Chi-squared distribution.
The goodness of fit test relies on distribution called the chi-squared distribution. The basic properties of this distribution are the total area under the curve equals 1. The curve starts at 0 and extends forever, ever, 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 never touching the horizontal axis, but always approaching it. 3. It is skewed to the right. 4. More degrees of freedom equals normal curve.
The null hypothesis and the alternative hypothesis.
The null hypothesis is when the actual population proportions are equal to the hypothesized population proportions. The alternative hypothesis is when the actual population proportions do not equal the hypothesized proportions.
Procedure for chi-squared.
Step 1. State the population and the parameter of interest. HO equals P observed equals P expected. HA, at least one of these don't equal each other. Step 2. All of the values of the expected counts are greater than or equal to 1. In order not to proceed with caution, the sample must be an SRS. Step 3. Carry out the goodness of fit test. Step 4. State whether we can accept or reject the null hypothesis in comparison to the significance test. Example, M&M colors.
Observing that the proportion of blue M&Ms in his bowl of candy appeared to be less than that of the other colors, Richard Cranium decided to compare the color distribution in the three randomly chosen bags of M&Ms to the theoretical distribution reported by M&M Consumer Affairs.
Following is the theoretical distribution.
The table shows the hypothesized percentage for each color. For the study, he bought 3 bags of M&Ms from local stores and counted the number of each color. The average number of each color in the 3 bags was distributed as follows. In a sample of 509 M&Ms, there are 152 brown, 114 yellow, 106 red, 51 orange, 43 green, and 43 blue.
Does the data provide sufficient evidence to conclude that the color distribution of M&Ms differs from that reported by M&M Consumer Affairs at the 5% significance level? Step 1.
The population is the M&Ms, and the parameter of interest is the distribution of the proportion of colors of M&Ms. The null hypothesis is the color distribution of M&Ms equals the report by M&M Consumer Affairs. The alternative hypothesis is that the color distribution of M&Ms differs from that reported by M&M Consumer Affairs.
Step 2.
In order to proceed with the chi-squared goodness of fit test, all expected values must be greater than 1. After calculating them by multiplying the sample size times the hypothesized proportions, we find that they are all greater than 1. To carry out this test, it must also be an SRS. However, it was not stated in the study that it was, so we must proceed with caution.
Step 3. Carry out the goodness of fit test.
Using values in our table of observed and expected counts, we can use the formula to find the chi-squared value. After plugging in all values, we find that the value is 4.0901. Then, the next step is to find the p-value. To do this, on our graphing calculator, we'll use the setting chi-squared CDF. First press second bars, then press 8. Then enter 4.0901 for lower, 1000 for upper, and 5 for degrees of freedom. The result is 0.53639 as the p-value.
Step 4. Make a conclusion based on the results and context of this problem.
We have significant evidence to accept the null hypothesis and reject the alternative hypothesis. The p-value is 0.5363, which is not less than 0.05. Therefore, we cannot reject the null hypothesis at the 5% level. We can conclude that the color distribution of M&Ms does not differ from the report by M&M Consumer Affairs.